She remembered the weight of him collapsing into her arms before she remembered the pain. 7 knife wounds, scattered and burning, yet somehow distant as she dragged the injured soldier toward the narrow light between ruined walls. Someone shouted easy there, but the word arrived too late. The night swallowed them both, and she made a choice she would never be able to explain with words alone. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Lina Moreno, a combat medic with a quiet voice and steady hands. She'd learned to move through chaos without announcing herself, learned to count breaths when the world refused to slow down. That night, the air was thick with dust and fear, the kind that settles into the lungs and refuses to leave. The injured soldier, barely older than a boy, kept apologizing between ragged gasps. Lina told him to save his strength. She told herself the same. The alley narrowed. Footsteps echoed. A blade flashed where a face should have been. Lina felt the first impact like a shove, the second like a warning. At! She didn't scream. She turned her body, not away, but between the blade and the soldier's chest. Training took over. Count, press, move. The world narrowed to a tunnel of breath and resolve. She thought she'd never see the sunrise again. She was wrong. When help arrived, it came as hands and urgency, voices overlapping in a language of command and care. Lina faded in and out, aware of the soldier being lifted first, aware of her own name spoken like an anchor. In the medical tent, light hummed overhead. She felt the cold of instruments, the warmth of pressure. 7 wounds, none fatal. The doctor met her eyes and nodded once. The smallest miracle. Morning arrived quietly. Too quietly. Lina woke to the soft rasp of wind against canvas and the ache that came with survival. She tried to sit up and failed. The nurse scolded her gently and adjusted the blanket. Outside, boots passed in rhythm, a tide she could feel but not see. Lina closed her eyes, wondering if the soldier had made it, wondering if the night would follow her forever. By noon, she was transferred to a small base housing unit, temporary, anonymous, meant for rest. Lina welcomed the anonymity. She didn't want attention. She didn't want gratitude. She wanted the world to be normal again, if only for an hour. The knock came the next morning. 3 precise raps, then silence. Lina frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. The nurse had promised rest. She swung her legs carefully over the bed, every movement measured, and opened the door. The hallway filled with Marines. They stood shoulder to shoulder, uniforms immaculate, faces set with a seriousness that made the air feel heavier. At their center was the soldier she had dragged from the alley, arm in a sling, eyes bright with something like disbelief. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then he took a step forward and stopped, as if unsure where to stand. "Ma'am," he said, voice steady, despite the tremor beneath it. "We were told you might not want visitors." Lina leaned against the doorframe, surprised into a smile she hadn't planned. "I'm standing," she said. "It's a good sign." A ripple moved through the line, not laughter. Not quite. Something softer. Respect finding its place. The Marine nearest the front cleared his throat. "Permission to speak?" She nodded. "We came to say thank you," he said, "and to apologize." "For what?" Lina asked, genuinely confused. "For not knowing," he replied. "For assuming courage looks loud." The injured soldier swallowed. "I kept thinking," he said, "that if you hadn't slowed down for Meph, you hadn't said easy there, I would via panicked. I would have made it worse. You've saved me twice." Lina felt the words settle where the pain had been sharpest. She looked down the hall, then back at them. "I did my job," she said. "That's all." But it wasn't all. They knew it. She knew it. A small box was passed forward. Inside lay a simple patch, worn at the edges, bearing a unit emblem she recognized. "We thought you should have this," the Marine said. "It's not official. It's ours." Lina hesitated. This was the moral line she'd always walked, accepting gratitude without letting it turn into something else. She took the patch anyway, careful and deliberate. "Thank you," she said, and meant more than the word could carry. They stood there a moment longer, unsure how to end it. Then, one by one, they saluted not sharply, but sincerely. The hallway seemed to hold its breath. After they left, Lena closed the door and leaned against it, the patch warm in her palm. She thought of the night again, the blade, the choice, the way fear had given way to focus. She thought of the soldier's apology, of the Marine's quiet line, of how kindness had arrived, wearing discipline and boots. Recovery took time. Pain ebbed and returned. Doubt whispered. But Lena carried the morning with her. Carried the reminder that bravery could be recognized without being demanded, that gratitude could be offered without spectacle. Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And just like that word spoken in the dark easy, there the world had slowed long enough to let healing begin.